If you had the option of sitting out of practice or games for a month or for the rest of your life, which would you choose? Most of us have been involved in athletic sports, either in youth leagues, high school conferences, or even in college teams. Though many of us probably have not experienced a concussion personally, it is an immediate reality to anyone who plays a sport or even in everyday life. I have taken many classes in the athletic training department. In athletic training courses, two subjects that are stressed over and over again include concussions and second impact syndrome. During clinical rotations, I was constantly around athletes every day, and I have firsthand experience with athletes who have experienced concussions. Athletes should not participate in games or practices while having a concussion in order to avoid second impact syndrome. The danger of death due to second impact syndrome is a very real reality. While preventable, most people do not understand the seriousness of a concussion. Returning to normal activities and playing sports should be avoided at all costs until all symptoms of a concussion are gone. While some people may not take concussion seriously, having second impact syndrome can have serious side effects. Second impact syndrome can cause severe mental retardation or even death. Second impact syndrome can only occur while having a previous concussion that has not fully healed. According to the brainandspinalcord.org, second impact syndrome occurs when someone receives a second concussion before the first one is completely healed. Receiving a second hit while having a concussion can cause severe brain damage. Brainandspinalcord.org also describes that after receiving a second concussion or a second hit after having a previous concussion that's not healed all the way, the brain begins to swell rapidly and very severely. With this brain edema happening, this can also lead to brain herniation. According to the American Medical Society for Sports Medicine, this brain swelling is caused by a loss of the body's ability to regulate the brain's blood supply, which leads to vascular engorgement. This can lead to coma or even death. Second impact syndrome can cause death or mental detriments, but people tend to ignore the symptoms of first concussions. Athletes and coaches do not know or even disregard the dangers of second impact syndrome when players have concussions. Some athletes do not know they have a concussion. On a report by NBC News Health, high school athlete Cody Leahy had received a concussion. When he went to go see a doctor, they gave him a CT scan. His CT scan came back normal, so the doctor cleared him to play. He went back to play and ended up receiving a second hit that put him into the hospital after he received second impact syndrome. Kara goes on to say in the article that the number of concussions cannot be determined due to athletes either dismissing concussions as just bell ringers or dings. Concussion symptoms can be broken down into 4 different areas. The American Medical Society for Sports Medicine addresses first the physical symptoms. These can be either headaches, nausea, dizziness, fatigue, sensitivity to light, or even sensitivity to sound, among some other physical symptoms. The American Medical Society for Sports Medicine next addresses cognitive symptoms. These symptoms may include feeling slowed down mentally, having memory problems, which could either be long-term memory problems or not being able to remember anything short-term, and they may also have a difficulty concentrating. Next, they address emotional differences that can occur. These might be being irritable, sad, or just being overly emotional in general. Lastly, the American Medical Society for Sports Medicine addresses sleep disturbances that could happen while having a concussion. These may be sleeping less than usual, having trouble falling asleep, or even sleeping more than usual. Players that have concussions or that someone may suspect have a concussion need to be benched till all concussion symptoms have subsided and have been cleared by a physician or an athletic trainer that has been certified in concussion management. Athletes must be symptom-free. The American Medical Society for Sports Medicine says only when an athlete is asymptomatic, completely free of symptoms, can they begin a gradual supervised return to activities. Athletes must take their time when returning to play. The American Medical Society for Sports Medicine recommends that returning to play after a concussion should be individualized, gradual, and progressive, and should consider factors that may affect individual risk and outcome. Once the symptoms subside with no physical activity, they can graduate to light aerobic exercise. Then they can move on to sport-specific exercises, then to non-contact drills, and lastly to contact drills. If any of these concussion symptoms return, any at all, they have to start over with no physical activity until those symptoms subside again, and then they can go through all the steps once again. If no symptoms occur during any of these steps, then the player is okay to return to play. The easiest way to avoid second impact syndrome is prevention and education. I have explained in this speech the risk of death from second impact syndrome, the need to recognize primary concussions, and the proper way to avoid second impacts. Athletes should not participate in games or practices while having a concussion in order to avoid second impact syndrome. There are many uneducated people out there with concussions not knowing the seriousness of their situation. Just one bump or hit could change a concussed person's life forever. Many young people with concussions have a normal recovery with a positive future if only they would sit out for just one more game. To find more information about concussions and second impact syndrome, visit brainandspinalcord.org. For a personal story, watch ESPN's E60 Second Impact Syndrome with Preston Plevrides. It is Preston Plevrides' first-hand story about his experiences in living with second impact syndrome.